हर खबर पर होगी आपकी पकड़। डाउनलोड कीजिए एबीपी लाइव ऐप।
अमेरिका में चुनाव की तारीखें करीब हैं, कुछ ही दिन बचे हैं। हर कैंडिडेट अपना कैंपेन इस समय तेजी से चला रहा है। इस समय हम वर्जीनिया के इलाके में फैकवर काउंटी में हैं, जो वर्जीनिया वैसे तो डेमोक्रेट इलाका है, लेकिन यहां पर रिपब्लिकन कैंडिडेट रॉब विटमैन है और इस समय हम उन्हीं से बात करेंगे। रॉब, sorry to disturb you in your campaign, but wanted to catch. We are from the Indian network.
Yes.
And how the campaign is going on?
Well, it's going well. We're very busy. We're here today talking to folks about issues that are important to people. I was just out earlier at an early polling place talking to folks as they came in to vote, asking them for their vote. I think that's critically important in this time to make sure that we are indeed out there talking to folks, making sure we understand what's important to them. So it's been good. I'm very enthused in what I'm hearing and very enthused to see the level of participation in voting now. We're over 50% people voting early, which is great.
This time the elections are very intense. So what you think that, the difference of temperament, the difference of mood as far as the U.S. politics is concerned? You have been a congressman for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, I think that folks are very enthused. I think the Republican voters are very enthused. I've talked to them. They are highly motivated to go and vote, which is a good thing. You know, our system works best when everybody participates. I think we'll have record high amounts of participation by voters. I think that folks are taking advantage of voting early. The polls close tomorrow at 5 p.m. for early voting, and then you'll have to come out on November 3rd when the polls are open from 6 a.m. in the morning till 7 p.m. in the evening. But we've seen, record amounts of early turnout, which is good.
Rob, since we come from India and, the President Trump says that he is the best friend of India in White House.
Yeah.
So, and since you are also the member of the, the vice chair of the Arms Control Committee.
Yes.
So, what do you see the future of the India-U.S. strategic partnership?
Well, listen, I think it's very strong. I've been there to visit in India. Prime Minister Modi is fantastic. I think does a fantastic job. We've been there to visit with members of the Indian military, both the Navy and the Army. Great relationships between U.S. military and the Indian military, looking at the things the Indian military is doing to work jointly with U.S. forces there. There's a lot of opportunity there. As you notice, our military commanders now, instead of calling it the Pacific Command, it's called the Indo-Pacific Command, which is specific to make sure that we are emphasizing the importance of India in that region, expressing the importance of relationships between the United States and India, especially on the military side, because we do know the threats that come to the region from China.
Even during the election campaign, both the Secretary of State and Secretary of Defense visited India. There was a 2+2 dialogue, and which actually expressed the commitment of the Trump administration as far as the schedules are concerned. What India should expect if President Donald Trump gets his second term?
Well, listen, I think the relationship between India and the United States will get even stronger. I know America is committed there. As we know, the impact of One Belt, One Road around India, the things that we need to do to help India with that. We have a common interest, and that is to push back against the overreach of China in the region. I think those things you can expect that will continue to happen between India and the United States.
As far as the arms sales are concerned, one of the concerns in India is the American arms, supply to Pakistan, and there was sizable concerns as in India as well as in the United States that whether that military hardware has been used against India.
Yes.
So, is there a change in thought process in the U.S. administration as far as the use of U.S. military equipment or U.S. Military hardware in Pakistan?
Well, listen, I think we need to look very carefully at military arms sales to Pakistan and what we do to support India. I think that you need to look very carefully at what happens to disrupt the balance of power in the region, because I think those things have a tremendous impact. I want to make sure we look very carefully at what happens there, and then what can we do to be a strong military partner with India. I think that's incredibly important. And then look, too, at what the impact is of arms sales to Pakistan. Those things, I think, have to happen. I think the administration is looking at that. I have had conversations with Secretary Esper to make sure he is keeping that in mind, as well as the State Department, because, the State Department's involved in making those agreements and approving those arms sales.
So you think that there's going to be a change as far as the compliance of Pakistan on the commitment of terrorism is concerned? Because we have seen on January first to 2018, President Trump's first tweet was about Pakistan not complying to the commitments given as far as the containing terrorism is concerned.
Well, listen, I think Pakistan needs to be held accountable, and they need to stand up against terrorism. We've seen the efforts that unfortunately take place there from different groups, from the Haqqani network, from the Quetta Shara, the things that transport over into Afghanistan, where we're there trying to stabilize that country. Those things are incredibly important. I want to make sure that there's accountability there within that government and make sure that it's demonstrated through actions. What are they doing to push back against the Pakistani Taliban? What are they doing to push back against the Haqqani network? What are they doing to push back against the Quetta Shara? Actions speak louder than words, so we need to make sure that we're holding the Pakistani government accountable for actions they're taking to decrease the instances where we see terrorism being exported from Pakistan into neighboring areas.
One last question, Rob, do you see a pattern into it, the way the voices of criticism have come from Turkey, from Pakistan, as far as the statement of French President Macron is concerned, and the way this excess of alliance between China, Pakistan, Turkey, and other countries is concerned? Do you see there is an emergence of a new pattern or alliance?
Well, I think the things we're seeing emerge there should cause all of us to question what's happening, to question what that does to the balance of power, not just in the region, but in the world, and make sure, too, that we understand what's behind that. And what would that result in if we don't push back against it? Again, because you don't want instability in those regions. And instability is born out of efforts that seek to create a concentration of power in one group of nations or in one single nation. So I think those things are incredibly important for the State Department and Department of Defense to address with those countries, whether it's Turkey or whether it's other nations in the region. Turkey is a NATO ally, so we should have the ability to sit down with them and say, hey, by the way, what's going on, what's happening with President Erdogan, and talk to them specifically about that. And then also what's happening elsewhere in the region.
So thank you very much for sparing time and talking to us, and wish you all the best for your campaign. So कुछ इस तरीके से रॉब से हमने जाना कि किस तरीके से कैंपेन चल रहा है. कल अर्ली वोटिंग के लिए आखिरी तारीख है, और इसीलिए रॉब इस समय भी अपने लोगों के साथ अपने कैंपेन ऑफिस के अंदर हैं, लोगों से संपर्क कर रहे हैं ताकि अधिक से अधिक लोग वोट करने के लिए बाहर आ सकें. और रॉब ने हमें बताया कि किस तरीके से भारत और अमेरिका के रिश्तों के लिहाज से भी ये जो आगे की साझेदारी है ये काफी अहम मोड़ ले सकती है. कैमरामैन संजीव कापड़ी के साथ प्रणय उपाध्याय, वर्जीनिया, अमेरिका, एबीपी न्यूज.
एबीपी न्यूज आपको रखे आगे.